Hello, everybody. Welcome to Astrology Unplugged. I'm Rick DiClemente, and we're glad to be with you and glad you're with us on YouTube or live. And tonight, what I've been doing is this show just kind of ebbs and flows. I think tonight's episode 240, 241, something like that. So we're getting there after about 4 years. And tonight and recently, and I want to keep working on people who think they're stuck. Okay, people who are stuck. And the planets, like I told a lady I was reading for yesterday, the planets don't predict physical things. She says, well, what do they do? I said, well, they don't tell you concrete predictions. They tell you archetypal predictions. And I knew when I said that word, I'd get a, huh? I say they tell you the type of thing that's coming your way. And she had just gone through tremendous job change, and she quit her job, and she started to get self-employed, and everything was getting better. I said, so the archetypal change for you was a challenge for you to step up, to release yourself, to see how you were doing as an individual, and you met the challenge. The wave that came by, you rode the wave properly, but the astrology didn't say you were going to start your own business. There goes the green-eyed lady, Lillian. Okay. And tonight we're going to work with people who think or could be, and I really don't think people are stuck. I think when people come to me that are stuck, I think what they're saying is I'm just about ready to take a leap, and I'm really 99% convinced, and I need that 1% extra. So you're going to be surprised because we're going to do Diane tonight, and we're doing her chart. And next week we're doing Teresa followed by Tracy. So we get the next 3 weeks filled. The whole night will be devoted to her chart. That way I can go slowly, and I'll do the reading very much like I would do in person. And I think that Diane's going to be surprised because I think the change is coming about here, and I think she's expecting it to be coming from here, but I'm not sure. So that's what we're going to look into the chart. Diane is an Aries. Let's get started with her chart. And a Pittsburgh woman. Okay, let's get it started. Here we go. Here's Diane's chart. And you can see she's an Aries with the sun next to Venus. And, sun next to Venus is pretty common, but it's a very nice thing because Venus is always within 5 signs, within 3 signs of the sun. So it's always in this area. So it's not uncommon to have sun next to Venus, but it's a symbol of somebody who enjoys life. Now, of course, everybody in the world has Eris in Aries since 1921. And the unusual thing here is the sun and Venus are both opposite Neptune. That's a big deal, okay? Susan is at the casino in Washington, and she has entered the waiting room. She's at a casino. Oh, man. Well, welcome, Susan. She's coming to us with her traveling mobile home from Cleveland across the northern part of the states. The rising sign is Libra. The moon is in Sag. Okay. Now, right away, you got to get into this thing here, and I've seen this many, many times. You got the sun at 28, you got Venus at 29, and then there would be 30 degrees, and then there would be 1, and there's Neptune at 1 degree. So this is called an out of sign opposition. If it were in sign, then your Aries planets would be opposite Libra planets. But since it's at 1 degree, it's out of sign. Now, the unusual thing about this is, and this could go on for quite a while. Hello, Susan in Casino in Washington. You've got the Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac, which is the ultimate of meanness. And you got the Neptune as the last planet of the zodiac, representing Pisces. And it's symbolic of non-self, the self and the non-self. Well, this is this is a very good reason to stop and to take this very seriously and talk about this for a while. Liza and I have noticed a lot of people, very famous people, very distinguished people, have a lot of Aries and a lot of Pisces. What's interesting about that is you got the first sign of the zodiac and get the last sign, Neptune being the ruler of Pisces. So what's intriguing about that is we find a lot of people with a lot of success have that. Benjamin Franklin, not Franklin, I'm sorry, Thomas Jefferson, Ram Dass, not Norman Mailer, but many, many philosophers. And what happens with it is the Aries has that undaunted, get out of my way, I'm going for it. There's my green-eyed Lillian. There's the green-eyed, she likes this show. Okay, so the Aries part is very undaunted. Get out of my way, I don't want to be blocked. I'm very adventurous. But you don't have anything in the middle clogging it up like Libra and Scorpio and Capricorn. You don't have much in the middle. Instead, you have the outer planet, Neptune. And Neptune's all about, hey, here's a ticket, and I give you a ticket, it's blank, which means you can go anywhere you want to go. So here you got this very adventurous Aries with this blank ticket. You could go anywhere you want. It is no coincidence when people get their chart read on this show, especially in this time of Eris squaring Pluto, where we're all being encouraged to think big and go and do it. I'll tell you right now, before we even get Diane speaking, Diane's about to do something really major, big time major. She's going to, and because the reason why is because she's ready. Now, the difficulty with this is Aries is not an introspective sign. They're an extrovert. They're pure extroverts, purely. They just see something and go for it. Now, I don't want to oversimplify it because there's a tendency to do that with Aries people. When I had to write the chapter on Aries in this book, it took me a long time. It took me a long time to get in the shoes of Aries, to get in their seat, and for me to figure out where are they really coming from. Because they're not like Capricorn, and they're not like Leos. They're not like anybody. And Aries are all about, I want to go, let's go. This is very simple. I want to go, let's go. Because it's not where they're going that's important. It's the process of going that's important. It's the process of me challenging myself to see what I can do. Because Aries is all about, oh, look what I did. Look what I can do. And the reason it's such a big deal and it's such a important item is because it's symbolic of the fall from Christ. It's symbolic from the fall from God. It's symbolic of separation from God and God separating into pieces so it can be separate. And only when you're separate can you sense the other. Okay. So that's why Aries can't be stopped, and you can't stop them, and they shouldn't be cautioned, and they should learn from their instincts. So it's very common when you see Aries people, they know what they want to do, they're going to go get it, and they almost always sound really confident. They sound real confident, like they know where they're going. Oftentimes they don't. Doesn't matter. They'd rather sound like it and keep moving than worry about whether they're right. So it's kind of a funny sign. Very pleasant people usually, almost always, very innocent. They have an innocent look about them, a very childlike look to them. But when you put the sun, let alone Sun, Venus, opposite Neptune, or Neptune opposite doesn't want to hear anything about, you're going to go do what you want to do. What do you mean you're going to do what you want to do? Neptune is all about we're all doing for each other because we're just one of us. So you've got this real complex situation here, and we're going to get into the past life chart to see where this comes from. But you've got at the very basis with Diane, this very strong sense of self and this very strong sense of non-self. And usually when that happens, the personality translates that as a problem. It isn't a problem. She's got the non-self, she got the self. She's here in this lifetime to balance the two, to fuse the two, to get the two to work together. All right, we're not touching this yet because it's just too powerful. James Hillman, that was the other author I was thinking of, and many others. Very powerful sign. Okay, the reason why is because you have early signs of the zodiac, and you get very late signs of the zodiac with Neptune ruling Pisces. So when you got this, what basically happens, and we don't know to what degree yet, you got self, non-self, self, non-self, self, non-self. And when the argument gets out of hand, or when the stresses go overboard, where does the excess energy go to? It goes to Uranus and Leo. Oh, it goes to Uranus and Leo. What do you think Uranus and Leo says? I'm right, I know what I'm saying. I'm right, I know what I'm talking about. So it really agrees a lot with the Aries side. The Neptune doesn't want to hear it. The Neptune could care less if you think you're right, because it knows you're not right, because it knows there's only one of us. Let me get my fan going here. It's already getting heated. All right. So it's a very interesting combination. The Sun and Venus opposite Neptune going to Uranus and Leo. So what I would say about this, thank goodness Libra's rising, because Libra softens it, it smooths it out some. But what she has a tendency to do, and let me tell you, this is really interesting. When I talk about what she has a tendency to do, what may replace what I'm saying is it was what one of the parents were like. See, what you're like and what your parents are like are very fused, and they're very connected at the same time that they're very separate. It's very complex. So what this says is that when I get myself in trouble, I'm going to at least pound my chest and toot my horn and say I'm okay and convince myself I'm okay and try to convince you that it's okay, but we're not really sure because that's the Neptune. Neptune's all about uncertainty. So what does this mean to you, Diane? You have to be ready because I'll pop a question at any old time. I don't even know. What does it mean to you?
Well, one of the things that comes to mind as I listen to you is how I feel like I started my life much more other oriented. And it's only now that I am becoming more Aryan and focusing more on myself and my needs.
Good. Very good. Well, I find out with a lot of people I read for, a lot of Aries that I read for, that they start to touch that Aries quality when they're young. And it's so common to be bad-mouthed or programmed or, the dogma that's fed to us, that being selfish is bad. So in a way, you don't get to really express your instincts when you're young, and you have to look at them when you get older. Okay, fine. This is absolutely normal, but we know automatically that we've got a theme of self, and non-self. That whole theme is wrapped up in this chart, so big that it's got to be presented big time in the past life chart, which means in the past life chart, there's this sense of being told, be selfless. No, be self-full. No, be selfless. Be self-full.
So
go ahead.
I just wanted to add something else that I realized I was thinking of a little earlier. So the other thing I think of is that I'm the daughter of a minister who was also very into spirituality and was probably my first spiritual teacher in many ways, and that I got interested in spirituality very early in my life.
Okay, very, very good. And the problem, which I'm going to really get into a lot over the next few years, because it's really where my heart is. The problem that we all have in the New Age movement is we get too down on the ego. We are so willing to fight ourselves and tell ourselves we're bad and tell ourselves that we're guilty. And we're really our own worst enemies. And really, that's the thing we have to whip. So what I'm thinking is happening to you today is you're at a turning point with this whole issue. Because not because I said so, not because the chart says so, but because it's time. Look how last week you gave up your position for another person. That was no coincidence. You weren't ready last week, and you are this week. Okay, let's go further. So I want to show you how you've got this real strong sense of self with 3 big planets in Aries, including Aries right on the descendant. This is really strong. Anything right there is extremely powerful. So we know she's got Aries real big, which means don't try to fool her into something unfair. Don't try to exclude her or her friends, because she's going to fight you. She's going to fight you. She has a lot of sensitivity to people, but she just got a real strong sense of what's unfair, and she ain't going to put up with it. Aries is really strong in this woman's chart. Okay, let's stop there for a second. All right, we take a look and we see this T-square is going to Uranus. All right, we look over here and we see Mars and Gemini in the 9th house of teaching, and she is a psychologist. Mars and Gemini means that you like all kinds of psychology. You like different branches, jack of all trades, kind of. And the Mars is at 20, and it's really close to opposition to the moon, and is opposite Saturn. So this house quadrant, this polarity between the Gemini Sag is the polarity of learning and teaching. Okay, so we see with her that she's got all these abilities. She's got a Sag wants to just try everything. Gemini wants to just try everything. And Saturn's here in the middle of it, trying to keep control of it somehow so that it makes sense. And I think Saturn at sometimes just gets overwhelmed by being in Sag and opposite Gemini. We like, in most cases, we like Moon and Sag. Not always, but Moon and Sag is especially good for people who stop themselves, who get gummed up, who are restrictive. The Moon and Sag is really good about let the rain wash off my back, off the duck's back. Yeah, what the heck, blow it out. What the heck, just forget it. That's the real good thing about the Moon and Sag. Okay, now we're going to leave that be for a moment. So we'll see here, we see a kind of cavalier attitude mentally, a very broad ability mentally. She's interested in lots of things. And when it all doesn't add up into a nice, secure philosophy, she doesn't worry about it. It doesn't all add up to a nice, strong, cohesive philosophy, but she just lets it go. She doesn't worry about it, which is a lot better than beating yourself up about it. We understand that. That's written in pencil. We're going to leave it be. Now, in this opposition between Mars at 20, almost to the midpoint of Saturn Moon, the T-square can be very frustrating because Mars opposite Saturn is a symbol of frustration. It's also a symbol of driving with your brakes on. It's also a symbol of militarism. So maybe she had to spend a good time in the military, or he, in past lives. But when this gets frustrated, the T-square goes to Jupiter and Virgo. Okay, this T-square goes to Jupiter and Virgo. Well, this T-square goes to Uranus and Leo. And Jupiter and Virgo is all about somebody that when they go on a picnic with you, they got the forks, they got the knives, they got the spreads, they got the drinks, they got the sheet, they got the place rented, they got everything figured out ahead of time, planned. And that's not an Aries quality. It's not a Libra quality. It's a Virgo quality. So is that true when you go somewhere, you have it planned to the nth degree?
It's not true. No.
Okay, that's good. I like being wrong sometimes, and let me figure out why. All right, maybe it's overwhelmed by all the Neptune. Maybe the Neptune opposite Sun and Moon opposes this, because usually Jupiter and Virgo people say yes, that is absolutely true. So you tell me it's not.
Well, it's interesting because, again, I think earlier in my life, I was a lot more concerned with having everything, all my ducks in a row.
Okay, all right, that's all right.
Yeah.
So you can see how charts conflict themselves. Another thing I wanted to say to people tonight is we all have to get out of this habit of over-identifying with our sun sign. We're so much more than our sun sign. And the sun sign is like your major brand. You're driving a Chevy, you're driving a Ford, you're driving a Lincoln, but there's so many different types. So you have to really be guarded that you don't get overexcited, over-identified with just your sun sign. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at an Aries who's very Neptunized. We're looking at a very strong Uranus in Leo, which means she's not shy about giving you her opinions, and she feels strongly about them. We're not quite sure what this Jupiter is doing, because it's doing things and it's not doing it. It's being picky, but it's not. We're not sure what that means. We got this real strong intellectual ping pong going back and forth here.
You know, Rick, it might have been the example you used.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have everything in line for a picnic, but I definitely have a very strong perfectionist streak.
Okay. What I'm talking about, when you got to do something, are you prepared for
it? Again, I'd have to say not so much anymore.
Okay. All right. Let's just let it be. It shows you how charts can conflict, and that's why we use a pencil. Okay. The chart ruler is Venus. The ruler of the chart, Venus rules Libra, and Venus is found next to the sun, and Venus is in Aries. Well, Venus in Aries is very much people who got something to do, they go do it. They want to go, they go do it. Straightforward. In the book, I talked about them being the hood ornament on a car, no rear view mirror, no brake pedal, just gas, let's go. That's very Aries. Okay. Now, what's happening right now? Pluto is at 24 here, going to get to 27, going to get to 28, and it's going to square the sun and Venus. It's going to complete this grand cross. Pluto is going to get to this point, square to Neptune, square to this, opposite Uranus. So over the next 3 years, Pluto is going to have it out with this T-square. And what that means is that inside of you, you are ready to bring this to completion, because you have had for a long time this seeming conflict between Sun and Neptune over to Uranus. But as Pluto gets involved with it, becomes the fourth planet, Pluto is going to rise up above it and try to blend it into overall deep meaning. Because what we really find by reading the exquisite zodiac, and what we find by reading so many spiritual books, is being the selfless and being the self is not necessarily in conflict. As a matter of fact, I think the most screwed up people in New Age movements are the ones that won't let themselves be themselves. And the ones that allow themselves to be themselves end up being okay. So that whole theory, that whole field of dynamics is about to come full circle. That's what this reading is about. Now, beside that, go ahead and comment on that if you'd like.
So I am planning on retiring next year. And when you asked about people being stuck, the reason I raised my hand is because I have been trying to do a better job of taking care of me. And this is like really basic stuff. This is getting enough sleep, exercising, meditating. And it's really baffling to me why I'm not able to do that very well. And so
we're gonna hold on to that one. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's part of the idea of retiring, that I've decided, I want to at least have a period of time where I'm not so focused on taking care of other people.
Right. I understand. That makes a lot of sense. And what do I have prepared for you for later? I have your solar return for 2021 ready, and your solar return for 2022 ready. So we're going to examine both of them. That will tell us what your main focus is on since your last birthday until next April, and then the year after that. We're going to look at that. And you'll see how it plays out perfectly. And what's so shocking to astrologers, what's so amusing to astrologers, is everybody sits back and thinks, and they are shocked when the planets agree with what they're thinking. And it's really the other way around. People almost always act as symbolically what the planets are doing. So it's humorous and it's very human. And I think it's changing too. Because one thing I did want to say tonight, I've been holding back on this a little bit, but I do think this is true. I think we are dawning on the age of the end of the spiritual dark ages. Mm-hmm. I think the end of the spiritual dark ages are upon us. Doesn't mean we're going to whip it. It means there's still a lot of problems. But I think if you look back and look at how we thought of each other, how we treat each other, how we group together, the restrictions we put on each other, I think the 60s really launched a lot of stuff. And I think we're coming to the end of that period of spiritual darkness and spiritual ignorance. And there's plenty of time for this, and it's actually happening really fast. It's happening really fast. It's happening at a quantum speed. Okay, let's get into your chart before we're all, I know, itching to go into the past lives. Now, in Diana's chart, not only is Pluto here squaring this Grand Cross, where's Aries? Aries is at 24, 25. So Aries has been moving, there she is. She's been moving very slowly since 1921. And she's going to start over the rest of your life, the next 25, 30 years, Aries is going to go back and forth all over these planets. Now you're going to notice it, and you're also going to feel it through the collective, but it's going to be all over you, and it's on the Grand Cross too. So if you are to look at the natal chart, you see Aries going over 7th house planets. If you are looking at the natal chart, Pluto is coming out of the 4th house, which is the emotional house, which is what she said. I want to start taking care of myself. But if you put the Sun and Venus on the ascendant, for examination purposes, if you put the Sun and Venus here, then Pluto's coming from up here. So that has to do with, where am I going? Am I going where I need to go? I got to redirect myself. So what it looks like to me, and I'm seeing this with a lot of people, it looks like a lot of people are in 2 stages right now. They're in stage 1 of liberating themselves, and stage 2 is going to do it. Because the planets are pounding on us so hard. That's why I've been telling you this ridiculous stuff for 3 months. If you're planning, then plan bigger. That's what's going on. Plan even bigger. So with your Sun on the left side and Pluto coming from the top, that's all about being drawn. Let's go forward. Let's go towards this. And Pluto always makes you want to do something with more importance. Now, we're going to take a look. Okay, Claudia, I hope you feel better. We will miss you. You get some rest. Don't know how that happened. But for you following on Facebook, we can actually see messages between us that you cannot see. And sometimes people check out of the meeting, which is just fine. Okay, so what do we know? We know that for a long time, Diane has been living forth this karma. And what I find with so many people is I find that most people are living what I call the first half of their life, even if it's not numerically half. It's like all the stuff in your chart. It seems so many people are in their 60s when they finally get a grip on it. Parent stuff, family stuff, job stuff. And then the next half, the mid 60s on, is where they just trash it all. Here I come. Here I come. Because I gotta come. Here I go. And I'm seeing with so many people now. One of the problems with this now, with church, etc., is a lot of people are still afraid to do it. They're still afraid to own themselves. They're still afraid to give themselves permission. So they're still looking for somebody to blame. I got nothing to say. There's nobody to blame. It's your gas pedal. It's your gas tank. All right. So when we look, we're going to go diving into the past life chart of her, the 12th harmonic, the past life chart, the spiritual transcript of her chart. So when we look at her chart, we see somebody who's very energetic mentally, philosophically, who has had some kind of toil go on for a lifetime of doing it, don't do it, do it, don't do it, green light, red light, yellow light, same time. There's some kind of mild confusion there. It's really not bad compared to other people. We see somebody who is a walking volcano. She's had this stirring volcano going on for a long time in here. And don't get near her whispering things like, you better cool it. Don't try it. She's going to blow. She's going to blow. Not because she's angry, but because she's a pent-up Aries and she needs to go. Okay? Now,
the other thing I thought of earlier when you were talking about possibly a parent. So my dad,
right.
while he was a minister, had a very bad temper and was very strong Leo. And I think it interfered with me being, kind of uncensored. And interestingly enough, when I did get angry when I was a kid, I particularly got angry with my brother and would, really go after him. So I do have a very bad temper myself. It doesn't show up a lot. But anyway, I feel like I was very suppressed. My parents got divorced when I was 9-ish. And I think that also kind of put a damper on me and my feeling, comfortable in my skin.
I would say, I think that makes perfect sense. I would say that your temper is not the angry type of temper or the malicious type of temper. It's more of excess energy. I just got to blow it out. I just got to get it out. That's what happens with Uranian people. They just got to get this excess energy out.
Yeah.
In other words, people around you, and it's true with most Aries, people around you, they take your fights, etc., with a grain of salt. They don't take them too seriously. And if you are a typical Aries, you don't think that people fight enough. Aries people can't stand people walking around. They want people to get it off your chest, say what you got to say, put it on the table. We'll get over it. Yeah. Other signs feel like you put it on the table, it's the end of the world. Oh my God, Chicken Little. Not Aries people. They want it on the table, get it on the table, duke it out a little bit, you'll get over it. And poor Linda is having a good time laughing at this. So let's go into your past life here. I'm glad we're still recording. Okay, here's the 12th harmonic. For those of you not following me, I do a lot of harmonics. The 12th harmonic is the one based on the number 12 of Pisces. It's what I call the spiritual chart. A harmonic is nothing more than taking the positions of the planets in your natal chart, multiplying them times the number, putting them back on the circle. In the case of the 12th harmonic, what I have found through experimenting a lot, it is the chart that informs the birth chart, being the first harmonic. This chart is, to me, for a lot of research, it's symbolic of how you've been living your spiritual lives through many lifetimes. Or you might say, have you been going towards God or away from God? Okay, because when you get down to the harmonics, there's nothing left but God. There's God in you, or there's God in who you think you are. Okay, so what we're going to find out is what's really happening with Diane is nothing physical at all. Everything's happening with Diane is totally spiritual. She's going through a spiritual, magnificent revolution. That's what I found. Look at this chart. Sun, Pluto, Saturn. I've told you all along, any chart, what's on the angles? Ascendant, descendant, midheaven, nadir. What's on the angles? Saturn, Pluto, Sun. This is growing up with a daddy who's a preacher. This is a woman growing up with the weight of the world on her shoulders. And Aries people don't want the weight of the world on their shoulders. They want to fly. They don't want the weight of the world, but he's playing a role, remember? And this is historically how you've lived your spiritual lives. So when we see you in 1956 getting ready for a 1957 birth, and you're having it out with your spirit guide, and you're reviewing your past lives, that's what this chart is. It's a review. It's like a transcript of how you've been all along. What do you think about yourself? Do you think you need to get bigger, smaller, faster, quicker, slower, more patient? What? And we see in your chart that when you came out of this past lifetime, you became accustomed to, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, there's no judgment, but you have been carrying for many lifetimes the weight of the world on your back. That's what Pluto, Saturn people do. And what I'm suggesting to you now is you're ready to dump it because you just can't move. And having the weight of the world on your back may make a good book, but it doesn't work. Sun, Pluto, take things very seriously in Pisces. Mercury, Venus in Pisces. So this is somebody who's really been burdened for many lifetimes with the burden of developing this spiritual self. And Saturn's over here in Virgo. Did you do that right? Did you do that right? Did you turn to page 7? What about page 9? Did you do all that right? It's just this nutso stuff that at the time you thought was really serious and you thought was accurate. So what'd you do in the birth chart? You put Neptune opposite the sun. That sun starts to breathe 1 inch. I'm right here. That sun starts to get a little selfish at all. I'm right here. Do you see? It's no wonder the 3rd house and the 9th house is confused philosophically, because when you go left, the chart says right. When you go right, it says left. Makes sense. So let's keep looking. So this is definitely the most powerful part of the chart, this axis. All right, this Mars is a little bit far away from the descendant. It's not that critical of being at 8 degrees from the descendant. Saturn is really a big deal, being in Virgo and retrograde. This is a critical father. This is a father who always made you feel wrong. Okay, it is 9/11. It is 2 degrees away, which tells me something really critical happened to you when you were 2 years of age. You may not even know about it. Maybe the parents kept it to themselves. Okay, so we got a T-square to the moon. We got Mercury opposite Neptune. So what's obviously happening here is you're going through all these lifetimes, and before you can take the weight of the world off your shoulders, you have to feel worthy. And when you have a preacher for a father, you usually don't feel worthy. You usually feel not worthy. And now with the advent of screaming Mimi Harris, I don't think you're going to listen to it anymore. And we can always ask the brilliant question, how well did this work out for your dad? What's the answer?
Well, it's interesting because I wonder too if maybe my mother was the one that showed up as very critical. I ended up living with her.
Yeah. All right.
My dad, because he expanded outside of the Christian doctrine. He, studied Edgar Cayce, so he believed in reincarnation and he meditated. He was actually the emotional one for me. He was the one that was warm and affectionate and nurturing, more so than my mother. But he had this awful temper that scared the heck out of me. So I was always, trying to please him, make sure I didn't upset him. And then
keep it pushed down. Yeah.
Yeah, push things down. And then once, they got divorced and I didn't see him as much, then he really became kind of like this. I probably put him on a pedestal.
Well, that's common. And I must tell you, it's very common in astrology to look at the Saturn and try to think of the father, to look at the moon and try to think of the mother, and to interview your clients and find out you're wrong. Sometimes Saturn is the dad. Sometimes Saturn is the disciplinarian, whichever one it is. It always depends. It depends. But usually when Saturn is really strong and it's retrograde like that, especially in Virgo, it's a symbol of a father that you did not connect with. Now, what I think happened is you came into this lifetime. Remember, it's all informed. The natal chart, here's the natal chart once again. The natal chart is informed by the opinions of the 12th harmonic. Remember, the 12th harmonic are not what's true. They're what we think was true at the time. So at the time, you probably thought that there's no way I'm getting this world off my shoulders. I'm supposed to take the world on my shoulders. So how better to put the world on your shoulders than every time you breathe or have fun in life, you got to look at Neptune. Did you pass that by the preacher yet? Did you pass that by the church? Okay, now you got to understand, I'm not picking on you. What I'm seeing here is this is happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere. And collectively, it was interesting. I look back in the first show of Astrology Unplugged. The first episode was about no more mea culpa. No more, the time of mea culpa is ending. There's a cat climbing the wall behind you. I know the feeling, believe me. Okay. All right. So what we're finding out is that, and I've been seeing this all over the place. Yes, the spiritual path is long and it's arduous and it's full of many pitfalls and it's very challenging, but we've got to turn it into somehow we're going to be friendly with ourselves. Somehow we got to continue our challenges and be friendly with ourselves, and it's not wrong to do so. So when we look at your chart, what do we find? By the way, Teresa, it's good to see you, and you're up next week. Okay? Okay. All right. Now let's go back to your chart. Okay, what is Neptune doing right now? Remember, Pluto is here squaring the Sun, Venus, Neptune. First of all, Pluto squaring the Sun is a humongous identity crisis. That's what it means. Pluto square Sun Venus.
Rick, if you can hear me, you've frozen.
I know the whole screen is frozen. Ah, the internet connection is unstable. It's all right. We'll just wait it out and see what happens. The whole,
Is he back?
We
Mine's
see
a-
two of you, but we can't hear you, Rick.
I'm trying to.
Mine's- Yeah,
Okay.
he's back.
Okay. I don't know. We lost
Yay.
the link for some reason. And when you lose a link like that, it's really important to notice exactly what was being said when we lost it. It's really critical. Okay, everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, what we're finding out is this self-punitive stuff that was so prevalent for so long and made kings and queens rich when they're not anybody special. We're finding out that we're all just brothers and sisters. Now, where did, there's Diane. She went up in the corner this time. Okay.